Hey guys, it's time to Nefis and chill, and this will probably be a really unpopular opinion with a lot of people, but I got a hot take on racial passives in ESO for you, and I want to give my thoughts on them in a productive manner that even the ESO combat developers may take something from them. So just as a brief introduction for those who may need a refresher, there's a total of 10 playable races in the Elder Scrolls Online MMORPG. Dunmer, Altmer, Khajiit, Nord, Imperial, Redyard, Orsimer, Argonian, Breton, Bosmer, each with 4 racial passives, one passive being sort of a gimmicky or niche use for gaining 1% extra XP, 1% more gold, and so on, with the other 3 racial passives geared more towards combat like weapon and spell damage, health pull, stamina, magicka, stamina recovery, cost reduction, and really useful things. So let's break this problem down here. While it's cool to have flavor for each class and race, I strongly don't believe it's necessary or even healthy for the game to have racial passives or combat that strongly determine what race you should pick as a player to determine for optimization of tanking, DPSing, and healing. Take for example a close disparity in the Nord versus Imperial. While both races can be great for PvE tanking, it's very clear when it comes to much harder content like Rocker of Harmobase and Dreadsail Reef, that Nord is the clear winner in terms of safety and mitigation for certain sources of damage. Why make things harder on your team, or yourself? Why not just race change from Imperial to Nord, one might ask? Or, perhaps in a case that has a wider disparity, such as Dark Elf versus Wood Elf, it's clear that Dark Elf has stronger damage passives. Or, what about Breton versus Argonian? It's clear that Breton is simply more suited to the task of healing, especially with recent adjustments to the cost of healing abilities post update 34 and 35, while Argonian has kind of been delegated to a more niche use for tanking or healing, depending on content. Does this all mean you shouldn't DPS, tank, heal, PvP, or PvE, or whatever on any race you want? No. This isn't the point of the video. Frankly, I don't care if you have a one-legged Wood Elf, Froststaff, and bow build going for Godslayer. That's great and all, but what if you wanted to not grind another character, or want to PvP in entirely different specs, with an entirely different build, for an entirely different objective, such as Battlegrounds or Zerodead or whatever? The recent armory system introduced is sort of a solution to changing setups in a timely manner in a lot of aspects, but I'd be lying to you if I told you, hey, yeah, you can have the same output as me in terms of damage or even mitigation, not going from Wood Elf to Nord in PvP, or that the build will be exactly the same. Plenty of people through YouTube and the ESO Discord often ask me and other people if they can emulate our builds with their races not showcased in those build videos or build pages. And I think keeping the racial combat passives is more of a detriment to the player learning experience and experimentation of the famous ESO mantra of play how you want. It used to be a long time ago, about 2014 until late 2015, that racial passives didn't matter too much. There's a reason why, for example, Wooler, a previous PvE 10 content creator and ESO hub developer, is known for being a Khajiit main. It simply didn't matter too much back then. But this isn't a video looking back at the past with the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia. This is a video looking at the future of ESO. Through the breakdown of this problem so far, we've identified 2 key things here: race change tokens and player experience and combat quality of life. ESO is a volatile game in terms of combat balance. Anyone who's played for at least 6 months can tell you this. Sometimes racial passives get changed, or things change enough to the point players feel like they are forced to buy race change tokens via crowns or gold to optimize further, or to keep their previous power level in the specs they were pursuing last patch. I think eliminating unique combat racial passives per race would be a big thing in diminishing what players call change fatigue, as it allows the players to freely choose whatever race they want for what they want purely based on aesthetics, rather than worrying about whether they need to race change from Dark Elf to High Elf next patch or what have you. I'm going to start transitioning into the developer and business end of why the racial passive should go, and you're probably asking at this point, well, okay, Nefis, if we get rid of the passives we have now, what's going to replace them? I would propose that all races, if they get combat passives, get the same combat passives. An extreme example would be to give Redguards everything the Argonians, Imperials, Nords, and every other race has the same passives as the other races do. All racial combat passives should be given in some way, some form, to not put too much stress in terms of more skill points needed. For example, perhaps condensing stats into each passive rather than having more unique racial passives, and to also alleviate any potential player loss, power loss. This could be a transitional point for the future scenario, which is to allow the combat team to easily standardize or adjust player power creep in the future if everybody is more so on the same level with the same passives, because there are combat balance changes where some races are, for better or worse, affected by those changes. Furthermore, if there are to be unique racial passives or flavor or whatever you want to call it, you could put in more niche things such as crafting aspects, dialogue options, justice system aspects in specific zones that the races are native to. Maybe you will have a less of a fine in the Rift if you're a Nord. Or motif aspects, or something that may work with certain nodes of the craft champion point green tree, which may pave a way for certain problematics to occur, such as the economic advantages of being a race. But I would hope such bonuses are as tame as the 1% XP bonus High Elves get right now, or the 1% gold bonus Imperials get right now, or the 1% AP bonus that Bretons get right now. At this point, many will ask, well, what's in it for the business end of ZOS? Why would they suddenly let go of the 3,000 crown racial change tokens from the crown store? 3,000 crowns translating to roughly about $30 US. Here's the catch. They don't, and they should not remove the racial change tokens from the crown store. Looking at other MMORPGs, and yes, even the crown crate addictions many players seem to have, regardless of whether they hate the current patch or not, a lot of people will still buy the race change tokens 110% for aesthetic purposes. A lot of people will still buy things from the crown store. There's a reason why ESO is the literal #1 moneymaker for ZeniMax Media under Microsoft over anything else, including the 11 previous releases of Skyrim, and why ZOS is working on a supposed new MMO IP, because money. And I think accompanying this could be a good way to let go of the Imperial race from the Crown Store at last, to make it available as a free base game feature, as so many players have requested over the years. So let's go over this list real quick. Reduction of change fatigue. Doesn't force players to really go for optimization anymore in terms of, spending $30 for race change tokens, which I'm sure everybody would be fine with. Third, there potentially could be more improvements in other aspects of the game, such as, the things I've discussed, like the dialogue options and stuff like that. And I think, honestly, it would just be easier for combat balance changes in the future if there was more of a standardization, at least with the racial passes. But of course, you don't have to agree with this, and I don't expect people to, as this may be a very unpopular hot take. But let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below, and see you guys next time. Subscribe, like, and stay safe.